嗨，大家好，这里是大波胡，在太平洋时间3月2号上午，北京时间3月3日凌晨，微软模拟飞行官方又举行了一次在线 QA 直播。本次直播并没有公开什么猛料，全程都在回答玩家的问题，可谓名副其实的 QA 直播。不过，通过这些回答，倒也透露了不少开发详情以及开发组后续计划。在本期节目中，大波胡先对此次直播进行要点总结，之后是本次直播的全程转播。转播过程中，大波胡会对一些要点进行实时翻译，感兴趣的飞友们可以看到最后。另外，在近期，大波胡也会制作一期摩飞新闻节目，来对今天公布的所有新消息进行系统性的总结。还请关注频道，以便第一时间获得更新。首先是因为 DC6 那档子事儿 ，Xbox 底层关于 WebAssembly 的更新还在做，所以有些飞机目前还上不了架，包括 DC6 的恢复上架还得往后说。他们应该是那个铁了心了，要把 Xbox 这个事儿要解决，但时间上他们也没给承诺。总之就是在 Xbox 上，像玩 DC6 的，以及我估计之后还会有其他飞机，可能 Xbox 不能第一时间上架，那么 Xbox 上的玩家可能还得等一等。但他们的目标已经很明确了，他们要把这个事儿解决的途径是更新 Xbox 底层，所以时间上他们也说不准，因为这个事儿已经跟他们项目组关系不，就是工期层面上已经跟他们项目组没什么关系了，已经委托到 Xbox 那边去了。然后云游戏版不是，云游戏版就是现在小窗里的那个视频，是我在玩云游戏版。云游戏版是昨天上线了，然后还记得官方公布过一个线路图嘛，我给找出来。这个惊喜是确定就是云游戏版。然后之后6月和秋季还有2个惊喜，那就不知道了。然后那个云游戏版官方确认是 1080p 分辨率，然后现在可能玩过的人大家已经发现了，是只支持手柄，键鼠是操作不了的。这个他们说以后会支持，现在只有个承诺。然后是说了一大堆天气相关的，现在天气系统可以还原出来的东西已经很多了。而且他们的承诺是每次更新也会不断的去完善这些还原的能力。但是通过游戏内的天气界面能那个改出来的天气类型，现在是有点跟不上时的脚步。他们以后肯定会更新这个。然后现在阵风现在有问题，很多时候没有，比如说在海平面上飞的时候，刚才迟导提到的这些东西。海平面时候有很多有问题。这个他们目前计划这个样子是那个他们终极目标已经说出来了，他们是要通过计算温度差来实现气压差，来去根本上来把阵风模拟出来。因为从原则上你靠天气预报是不可能说去还原阵风的，这显然不现实。所以他们的目标是把阵风模拟出来。然后这个牵扯到一个问题，因为今年他们是要做滑翔机嘛，这个温度差产生的上升气流是滑翔机的一个很重要的动力来源，所以这个事情他们还真得做，不做的话滑翔机是做不出来的。然后具体的安排上本来这种 QA 就是画饼大会嘛，行。然后具体安排上是未来几次的系统更新，我估计会有2-3次吧，会在这个层面上，就是风这个层面上会继续优化，然后会加入不少可视化工具。至于这个工具是开放给玩家呢，还是开放给插件作者呢，那就不清楚了。然后有人问到，像什么水汽啊、沙尘啊、污染之类的，能不能模拟出来？然后这个是 York， 就是微软那边的负责人直接表态。说目前我们的重心是优化已有系统，所以你刚才说的那些暂时没有考虑。然后 ATR 是 ATR 42和72，这个是已经说是在做了嘛，然后这次提到了还在做，还是有进展，但是也没有说时间。 然后这里也提一嘴，就是这个 ATR 飞机是飞机制造商是直接合作的。然后是这个问题，很多飞友在我的视频评论下面也都提出来了，是长途飞行之后针对腰斩的这个问题。今天的这个回复可以说是应该不会让大家满意，但确实是他们这么说了，就是他们内部没有还原出这个问题。首先这个问题是这样，就是从软件开发层面上角度来说，要想修复一个问题，必须先还原一个问题，对吧？还原出来，然后只要能100%把这个问题还原出来，那么这个问题就会修正。但是他们内部没有这个问题没有还原出来，所以他们现在想到一个方案是，在开发者模式下面去开放更多信息，然后让玩家能够汇报出更精确的问题。就是现在玩家遇到这个问题的玩家汇报的问题，他们也无法分析出来到底哪有问题，是这么来的。然后他们发现有很多玩家确实是拿开发者工具来汇报问题，所以他们的目标是继续在开发者工具上面去开放更多信息，能让玩家来汇报出更多有价值的内容，来最终把这个问题解决。现在的状态是这个样子。然后 AI 交通指的是那个就是你在可能玩的时候换天上飞的，有些时候不是玩家，是游戏根据实时的交通数据生成的飞机，指的是这些。但是现在游戏里做的很差。但是这个问题刚才迟导以及我之前有个视频也提到了，就是官方层面上这个不好做，因为这个牵扯到因为这个牵扯到飞机涂装的问题。因为这方面的事情你要想做好，那么你生成的这个飞机必须是有合理涂装的。但是很多厂商肯定是不愿意提供授权，这个问题出现过了，这个已经不是假设，这是已经出现过的问题。然后现在官方微软这边再次说，就是这个事情我们已经找了个第三方，等于是利用第三方把它实现，然后通过第三方的这个途径把这个功能做出来。我估计有可能是让联系的这个第三方去做免费插件，然后相当于微软把免费插件给你推出来，大家可以安装，是这么个渠道。然后他们现在找的第三方是 AIG， 我估计很多玩家都装了他们家插件了，就是 AIG 是真把这个功能实现了。现在 AIG， 微软这边已经说了，跟 AIG 已经是展开合作了，正在做这方面事情。下一个问题估计很多人遇到了，就是你装的插件越多，读盘时间越长。这个怎么说呢？现在他们的长远目标是从游戏底层上去更改插件的读取方式，但是这个有点遥远，所以他们还一个做法就是先去开放游戏会显示更多信息，告诉你到底哪儿慢了。他们就先做这个，然后再去着手优化底层。优化底层是他们的终极方案。然后地面操控也是一个老大难问题，就是尤其飞小飞机，大家就发现有飞机在地面的时候各种扯淡的动作。这里是他们提到的一个细节，就是从他们层面角度来说，就是说的这个问题很大层面上是，当你抬轮之后，因为是开小飞机的时候，你在跑到就是起飞阶段，你肯定会操作舵，要不然小飞机很容易歪了，肯定会操作舵嘛。然后这个时候，当你一抬轮，就发现飞机的操控立马相当于变了个状态一样，立马不对了。这里他们提到的是，其实现在游戏内部在地面的时候有一个辅助操作的功能，是一个开关，一抬溜的瞬间，这个开关就没了，是这么来的。就是他把这个事儿从底层给解释了，然后在官方提到这个怎么优化的问题，然后就说到，首先是这个开关会做成一个过渡式的，等于让这个过程显得不这么突兀，是这个问题。然后 再提到，然后现在不是说现在正在做很多气流和气动模拟方面的一些事情吗？咱们知道这个东西只要做完，那么很多飞机的地面操控其实是不用他们人工再调教了，直接可以交给气流模拟了。但这个只能说是等气流模拟做完之后再说的这个事情。以及他们还提到这个起落架的轮胎阻力也要模拟，特别神经病。DLSS 这次 T 都没说，下次 QA 讲啊。然后地景工作室，这个是 Scenery Gateway， 这是 Xplay 那边有的一个功能。功能上是让玩家能自己上传地景模型，然后其他玩家可以下载，这么个系统。现在官方提到了现在的一个状态，就是开发状态是正在和一个亲密伙伴展开测试，到了这个级别。这个不说，然后这个没问题，这个没有什么。环境交通指的是像地面车辆以及海上的那些船，是这种叫环境交通。会更新，不知道啥时候。其他的，就直升机的这个事情，直升机就直接就说回来，说是，更新螺旋桨，更新气动，目标是要做直升机嘛？首先就回复到这个目标，就是首先螺旋桨这次不是更新了仨飞机吧？但是肯定没完，下次系统更新还会改，然后下次系统更新连带新的气流模拟会更新到塞斯纳172上。也就是下次4月底的时候，塞斯纳172应该会改不少，大家到时候可以体验一下。然后现在官方说遇到了一个难点，就是直升机扇叶本身会变形的一个问题。这个物理层面也得讲得通，因为直升机扇叶太长了，你这东西不变形，它会折断的，肯定会变形。然后这个问题。如果因为现在他们的目标是要把直升机的气动模拟出来嘛，所以到了这个问题的话，就发现这个问题和飞机的机翼弯曲其实是一个问题。然后，所以就是机翼弯曲和螺旋桨弯曲会综合出来做成这个受力面弯曲系统。他们会直接做那个去，这是刚才就是他们提到的这个事情。然后共享驾驶舱正在做，没有更新。有人问私服官方没有明说，但是官方的那个口吻基本就是说是私服不可能有。当然仔细想想，在现在这个环境下也不可能有，但是他们会去考虑你为什么要开私服，然后来开发游戏功能来满足你。比如说，他们这次提到，他可能会开发俱乐部功能。其实俱乐部功能的话，在网游体系的话就是工会了。然后螺旋桨优化，就是刚才提到下一个是塞斯纳172，然后会连带气流模拟。同时提到，因为气流模拟的话，会牵扯到第三方的飞机团队如何去接的这个问题上。官方承诺会有很多新的工具来方便他们接入，他们是这个事情。然后市场免费专区会有，然后有人提到 F18 会不会更新啊？官方现在只说了一嘴，在政治人员扩展包里会更新 F18，但具体是啥不知道。政治人员扩展包是那个随电影会一同上的一个扩展包，里面会有航母以及其他的东西我都不知道，是这么一个东西。现在电影是5月底会上映，具体是啥只能说到时候再看吧。现在他们也不会说，因为牵扯到和电影的保密协议上的这些事儿上。最后是 DX12 他们的线路图更新了一下，目标会在系统更新第10弹，那就是6月底。6月底的时候会目标在6月底大幅优化 DX12 的稳定性和流畅性，这是他的目标。具体做成啥样到时候再看了。等于今天 有用的信息应该就这么多。我会回来跟之前的 QA 一样，再去重新整理一次，然后再做个综合的视频来去解答。总之，还请大家关注频道，然后那个视频我估计这周末应该能出来。现在还欠着一个视频，是那个新的螺旋桨模拟对帧率的影响，这个是在做了。然后云游戏版的详细剖析，这个我还在整理，我估计得下周。然后就是这次 QA 的总结，这次 QA 总结我估计这周末应该能出来，还差不多。还请大家关注频道吧，到时候应该这3个视频现在是欠着的，肯定要做。所以 AN2 延期很大原因是这个，跟安东诺夫已经失联了。
Thank you, yeah, we appreciate that so much. And yeah, so there were a few follow-ups that we wanted to go over a little bit before we dive into this Q&A from the last Q&A. Just some questions that the community had and some clarifications. So that being said, there's 3 items on this list, and the first one was mention of the broken achievements. Sorry, last Q&A, we weren't aware. We got a big list from the community. I know some are fixed in Sim Update 8, so Marcial, I was hoping you could maybe list which ones or what we fixed in Sim Update 8 regarding achievements.
Yes, hopefully they are all fixed. We had 2 layers of issue, I would say. The first one was server-side, and so every achievement related to this bug has been fixed for Sim Update 8. It should be also the same for the last 2 ones, which were linked to live events. The way we're doing live events was not taking into account with the achievement systems. So there were two achievements called spotlight events and decathlons. Those 2 events was not.
作为航空业爱好者，肯定会想要这个东西，因为毕竟已经被毁了嘛。
Thanks, Marcial. The second follow-up we have is, I know everyone was asking sort of for a list of Xbox aircraft that were in development. Fjorg, if you want to speak to this of what we're doing now in our dev updates every week.
Yeah, so thank you for saying that, and it's nice that people care how many planes come to Xbox. So I've added a row, I hope it helps, just to acknowledge how many planes are coming. There's also, I don't know if we get to this here, Jane, or later, we have been investigating multiple ways to get all the planes on Xbox, even the ones that have WASM. The platform is working on it. The platform team has dedicated a team now to this, but it's going to take a while. So, and a while means, don't be shocked, it could be next year.
Xbox 那边现在状态是，因为上次 DC6 那个事儿，他们底层需要更新，所以 Xbox 那边很多飞机现在上不了架，跟这个原因有关系。
Then we hope to be able to bring WASM planes to Xbox in short order. I don't know exactly when, but it's definitely in the next few months if it works. So a little bit.
至于上次 DC6 是啥问题，我之前做过一个视频，可以去看那个看那个。
The last item to bring up, last week someone asked if it would be easy to create a toggle for on and off for plane ghosting for formation flyers, and I believe you have an update on that, Steb.
Yes, so we discussed with the team, and it's been added to the list of features we're going to bring in Sim Update 10. It was a little bit late for Sim Update 9, and it's going to be in 10. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. With that said, I'd love to move on to you, York, to talk a little bit about xCloud, which released yesterday.
Yeah, so I don't know if you fundamentally are the crowd that cares, but like xCloud, it's a big deal for us. We call it Xbox
云游戏版的体验，我最新那批视频里就是云游戏版的体验，各位可以直接去看。
So I've been geeking around because this is my iPhone 12, and I'm playing on my backbone, and I have to say it's freaking awesome. Like, so this is, and why is this relevant? Well, quite a few people on this earth don't have infinite amount of money, so they can't buy high-powered computers. They can't even sometimes get an Xbox, and this is really, I really feel like this is democratizing gaming a lot more. It is a 1080 30 frames a second stream. So it's
云游戏
not
版
what you
是
can get if you have the
1080p 30
best
帧，
rig possible.
这
But
是
I just
官方确认
relaunched yesterday, and just the amount of people I've
我怎么又卡了？实在不行，我就要动用杀气了。
economically not that well. I don't know. Look at that. Here's Paris. Wee. Terrible flight. Borgie.
That's
应
awesome.
该没说啥
It is-
关键的吧？
It is a shockingly good experience for that type of device. You can stream it to. I have like the stack of old laptops, like 8 of them, go back 15 years or something.
云游戏版除了最新的视频，我是在 Surface 上试了，然后我在手机上也试了，
So for
体验都还
it's
可以
great.。It's great for flight simming. We have seen a shit ton of people joining flight sim for the first time in places that have just not been able to engage with us yet. So I think it's great for the hobby, and the platform team that did a lot of that work, it's done a great job. So check it out if you have time. We are very proud of it. And this was, by the way, if you remember this little advents calendar thing that I had last time, it was one of the surprises, because people have been
啊，
asking,
云
hey,
还记得上次
working on Xbox One,
那个全年计划那个时间表
It's going
吗？
much further. It works on Xbox One and
云游戏版就是那个惊喜。
old PCs, and the device palette will just grow over time. So it's good news to reach more people.
4月那个惊喜，
Awesome.
这
We
是
do
第一
have
个
a
惊喜，
couple
其实就是云游戏版。
questions about
然后在6月
Xbox
还会有个
chat
惊
room
喜
if，you're
现在不知道那个是啥。
willing to answer. One of them is about we know we could use an Xbox controller for Xbox cloud gaming. Do you know if
你要这么想，以微软的角度，他们也不想摄政，因为作为一个
for xCloud?
全球的跨国企业，他也不想这么玩，
ASAP.
知道吗？
So basically, obviously, just all of us here. I mean, I'm working on mouse keyboard. I have my fly stick and my pedals. So the next step for us is mouse keyboard. This is a platform level support, so it has nothing to do with.
哎，
us.
云游戏
Obviously,
版
mouse keyboard works.
之后会有键鼠支持，
So the
玩的
platform
朋友都知道，
team's
现在还
working on
没
this.
有。
I know I can't give a date because it's the platform team. I don't know their dates, but it's coming, and we are also talking about.
云游戏版你现在去玩的话，必须要求手柄，
I'm very fascinating. I played
键鼠是
game
操作不了的。
PS5 not too long ago on xCloud, and has the gyro. It's actually very good. So you can basically see yourself doing it even more. It get a little bit more into the experience of flying a plane. So those are things that are. I would say it's in the next months. It's not weeks.
迟到，鬼知道啥是惊喜。反正6月份还会有个惊喜，我把那视频找出来。
By June or so, but I can't ever tell. But I know that everybody wants it. I want it, and so it's coming.
Awesome, cool. Thank you so much. I think that'll bring us into our first Q&A session here, which all the top questions from the forums were all about weather. So I figured this whole session could be about weather. Chat, if you have questions about weather, feel free to ask. Before we delve into it, Marcia, would you be on what changed with weather? As far I think it was back in.
这个惊喜就是刚才确定，这个惊喜是云游戏，
Of course.
Thanks.
然后6月还
So
一
we
个，
started flight team
秋季还一个，
using,
是这么安排的。
so the raw data from our partner, which is called Meteor Blue. And this raw data
第一个问题是
was
关于
showing
天
some
气。
discrepancies with the Meteor data. So the idea was to ingest those Meteor into the weather.
现在在讲实时天气是怎么运作的。
Meteor Blue runs for their forecast, and that's what we did with the last update on the weather. So it's better in a way that the Meteor data, when you're getting those, they're closer to what you get in the simulations. But we know that we are still having some discrepancies, or maybe that in some areas the smoothness we had previously has not been back. So we're going to talk about that, but we are still working on this, and we still want to bring some improvement on the weather systems. So this is what has been done in
Perfect.
7.
Yes, thank you, Martial. And that leads to our first question, the highest voted in the forums, and I see people in chat already asking this. When will the clouds in live weather reflect the variety of cloud types in real life? and not simply cumulative forms as they appear to be in recent builds.
现在游戏里的
I can
云
take this.
它是
So it
看心
partially
情
already
生
does.
成，
So it's a
就是天气预报里
basically
说那
it's
有
a
块云，
question
然后
of
游
how
戏就
detailed
生成
we
那有
make
块
the
云。
voxel
但是
that
云
holds
层
all the
云型
cloud
什么，它是
information.
没有考虑的。
I think the data we are currently getting from the weather provider has 60 layers, 60, 60, and of information, and in each layer it sort of tells you how much cloud there is. And in our cloud rendering, I wouldn't say something wrong. I think we have 64 or maybe 32, but I think it's 64, something like that. So the question here, in order to get basically cloud shapes, you need to we need to have smaller voxel spaces, and also most of you have probably seen with the latest updates there's been a new slider in the clouds. I think before it was only we've added density, I think, and that before it was only how scattered they were, and then you had coverage. I think you had coverage, scattered, and now you have coverage, scattered, and density. And there is also some 3D sort of voxel texture system going on that makes the clouds more or less fluffy. I think when you reduce your graphics setting, you sort of see that, because the textures go away, like the more detailed ones. And so here I would say for the basically any system we add to the presets we can use for the live weather. So here we can add in the future more systems to make the cloud, basically another slider to make the clouds maybe less fluffy and more uniform, which then allows you to, if you stretch them, to make maybe cirrus more.
现在讲这一堆
or anything like
很多
that.
涉及到这个云的这个还原原理上，但
So yeah,
它
this is basically
有一个
something
点，我觉得大家有点用。
progressively improving.
现在
And every
游
time
戏
we
能
add
还原的
something
这个
new,
云其实挺丰
you
富的，
can make more and more cloud types.
但是
And
现
that's
在
just
那个天气 UI 上很多东西你通过这个 UI 是操作不出来的。他说以后这个 UI 会更新，让大家能操作，能生成更多的云。就现在游戏按照天气预报生成的云其实很丰富。
Basically, the more accurate the system gets, the more out of the reality we're gonna have and simulated. Maybe one day we're gonna have these, when looks like almost like they roll over, like you know this. What's the English word, like rouleau compressor cloud type? I don't know how they're called, but it looks like, you have a front coming, and you almost see it like a spinning cylinder coming up to you. Basically, all this keeps getting better, right? The weather provider have improved their accuracy.
对，就刚才他说的嘛，就是它能还原很多东西，结果 UI 里做不出来。
And we keep adding more detail and improving it. So I would say step by step. When can we have all types? Well, that's, I don't know how long it's going to take to really have all the little.
刚才说的好像现在能还原60多种云吧，没记错的话，反正他刚才说了一个数。
Like something like the Mamatus, I think, which is these sort of, when you look from below, instead of having a flat ceiling, you have these sort of bubbles. They're fairly small, these bubbles, and so you need to have a good amount of precision to actually represent this in the way we do it, right? It's not it's unfortunately when you move from a sprite or like a impostor, like sort of bitmap based cloud system, to something which is full 3D, you get more, it's more realistic from all angles, but you can't just paint a cloud anymore. You have to simulate it. And so
薄云模拟这次更新不是优化了吗？迟早可以再看一下。高层云估计他们得再调一调，但是薄云他们这次优化过。
Awesome. Thank you so much, Seb. Great explanation. What leads to our second question here regarding the meter-based weather. Is there a way to make it optional to go back to the way it was before, or a toggle of some kind to decide if you want it to be meter-based or not?
但是还有优化空间呗，只能说是。
I think that the best option would be
什么？居然还有人想要这个还原到以前的版本？什么鬼才想法？
I think that would be our highest priority. There's still a way, I think, with to ask our partners to deliver the older stream, so we can change the older stream for the new one and have a toggle option. But I don't see the point of this.
哦，你说这个，那你可以看那下那个新的那个直度挑战，那个是炫耀新的那个云的效果。就是刚才他也提到，就是很多 新的优化的东西，你通过这个 UI 是拉不出来的。
Will this cloud simulation that we're hoping to improve upon, do you anticipate it would have a greater impact on the systems, or are they provided online and streamed to the PC?
Greater impact, you mean performance or?
I think probably performance, yeah, once there's improved cloud type, different types of clouds. Yeah.
I mean, anything that
这
has
是
more
问云对系统
precision, more data is always
系统
has
这
a
个
cost.
负载的影响。
Now the cloud system is not specifically
对，确实没有，现在确实没有历史。
I mean, if you take a percentage on the whole simulation, I don't know if you're running at 60 frames per second at in whatever 16 milliseconds. The clouds is maybe 1 or 2. I mean, many of you have probably seen. On the other hand, we have already improved performance quite a bit. Maybe to frame rates which are sometimes for some people above what you really need for a flight simulator. And so the idea, and I think we've said that already in the past, is that the performance that we unlock, obviously we're going to use to add more options. I think if we add more resolution in the future to the cloud system,
有插件做出来吧，我记得是，还是我记错了。
that's probably going to be an option, right? Where you can just for the terrain, the slider has been made so that you can go higher than it used to be. And probably for the cloud system, we're going to add one step above, and and then you can just go one step further in terms of definition, so that we don't force the additional detail on anyone who doesn't. I mean, who's just happy with what he has, but use the additional power. And I mean, hardware always gets better too, but we keep improving the performance of all systems. So using that performance to get better results is a good way to go, I think, and making that optional. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
就是这个有人问云越来越多对帧率有什么影响？说了一大堆屁话，没什么营养的一个答案。
There's nothing more fun than feeling the effects,
阵风
especially in a plane flying around of wind gusts in certain conditions. So, do you have anything you'd like to talk about with this?
Yeah. So there's a lot of work going on.
哎，现在阵风有问题是吗？
Weather that you can't see. So I would say wind, turbulence, draft, all that stuff is currently having a lot of development. So important to know is that in presets you can really tweak the gusts with quite some control. In live weather, we currently don't have really gust information.
对，但是他说这个 wind gust 还是比较广泛的，不只是切片问题。
That you can use. But in the other weather, I mean the Meteo Blue-based weather source, we have a wind like basically speed, but it doesn't say, hey, there's a gust every 5 minutes or whatever. So in the past, basically our gusts have been sort of procedurally generated depending on a few parameters. Sometimes it works, sometimes it was a little bit overdone. So I think we just reduced it a little bit over time. And currently, as we're working in that whole system, we're going to basically make it more realistic. You're going to see more and improved things like strong updrafts when you're under some specific cloud systems, or let's say it's a very sunny day. The sun is so we're working on calculations like calculating how much energy the ground receives, how hot it is, so that you can calculate how much there is potentially hot air building up and going up. And this all makes turbulences. So I mean, I remember on final when it's a little bit gray, cold day, and there's not a lot of sunlight in the morning.
这意思就是他们
on final and there's like I don't know fields and
开发计划上是要做那个 根据气温去算气压差。
Personally, I really don't enjoy going flying on hot afternoons because there's always a lot of I mean, people call it the washing machine, but it's I mean basically yeah when there's a lot of hot ground, there's a lot of air going up and down depending on the area. And
然后他们要通过这个方式来把阵风模拟出来，而不是因为阵风很难通过天气预报还原，他们将不想直接模拟。
It has to be pulled in from somewhere else, and so this sort of starts creating wind directions which are not anymore uniform, right? If you fly in one area, it goes left and then right, and this starts to create gusts. But these gusts are instead of being something like, hey, every 1 minute I want a gust or something, they're a little bit more organic.
这肯定，第三方它数据是进不去的。
And on top of that, we have new tools that allow us to control that better, and so we're going to reintroduce a little bit more gust. And maybe on the weather data, we can also find data sources that give us more information about gusts. So this is all being worked on.
For high atmosphere, we have something.
其实它现在很多山里的气流是已经模拟出来的，
But yeah.
估计他们目标是往那儿走。说实话，以现在目前这个状态来讲，
timeline to share on that, or is...
因为你想今年他们要做那滑翔机的话，这些系统是必须做出来的才可以。
I would say over the next sim updates, we're breaking it up into pieces, and the biggest issue is that it's very hard. It's something which is not very
有一个
easy for the
关键
user
点是
to
那个
use.
刚说的是，未来几次系统更新会不断的优化风的模拟。
I see more complaints
但这方面
of people
刚才
saying,
提到的
"Hey,
这个
there's not enough
以温度
turbulence,
算
there's
气压，
not
这个
enough."
应该也是算在这里面的一方面。
Given the way the system is built,
别忘了，这里有一点，因为之前预告过，今年要
because
做
we're in winter
滑翔
and
机
the
模
weather is
拟，
usually cold.
这些东西
There's not a lot
在
of
滑翔机
sunlight,
模拟
there's
里
not a
面，
lot
这些
of
东西是很重要的
clouds,
很重要
And
的
I remember last
气象条件，
summer,
他们
I
必须要
saw
做出来。
complaints about, hey, there's too much turbulence, and it was summer and it was hot, and
我这网络什么鬼？
And so the system which is currently out there is very much just built on temperature. It doesn't calculate the sun energy, which is so you could on a warm winter day get where there's a lot of sunlight, you could get a lot more turbulence, and that's something we're improving now to make it more realistic. But it's something which is difficult. So sometimes people think the system has been updated for something, and I see people, hey, this is better. And actually, it's another day. It's different weather. It's different clouds. It's different something, and it's just different that day. And so there's going to be updates over the next few sim updates. But we're also working on tools so that users can see this in a better way. Basically, which is I mean, it makes it easier to when you get pushed around. Why is that happening, right? Is it just a wind gust? Is it because I flew over a hangar and there was a pocket of hot air, or what has happened actually, so that people can understand. I mean, currently they don't have much, right? There's a windsock and the GPS, and that's about it. So you don't know why, and you can't see anything. And so that's going to be easier. And I think, and even if there's bugs, people are going to have tools to report and say, hey, look, I got a 5,000 foot upwind. And there was nothing really which would have caused that. And so
除了未来几次系统更新会陆续的更新这个气象系统之外，还会更新一些可视化工具，让大家看得更清楚。
Expect live weather to be enhanced with more data, such as aerosols, desert data, pollutants from Meteor Blue.
I can speak to this. Like, so I think you guys have
水
pointed
汽
out some of the shortcomings right now. We know that
污
there's
染
issues with the
还要做这些
main
东西，
specifically the visualization
又卡了。
of it too. We want to fix what's there now before we do a bunch of other stuff. We have gigantic goals for weather. Like, trust me, and we're going to get different data
TMDG 估
streams, more
计
data
进度会
streams
受阻，
from
乌克兰那个是
not just
Phoenix
Meteor, but
感
also
觉
from other
很久没出
providers.
声了。
But let's take one step at a time. Let's fix what we have, make sure that it all works, and then do things like that, which are all cool. But you know, I want a sandstorm. I wanted a sandstorm since we launched, but I have to sort of hold back a little bit until.
关于这个问题是他们问其他的气象条件，比如什么水汽啊，这个沙尘、污染什么的。然后 York 就说，目前他们的计划更多的是修正以及基于现有的系统再做优化，那些新东西之后再说，目前没有考虑。
Seriously thinking about bringing Oliver here today because he has lots of cool stuff to show. But as I said at the beginning, it's not the day to do this. We'll do it soon. It's on track to launch on March 22nd. We just we did a thing that made me very proud. Like, this is super geeking out now. There is one of the deniers is called the Plus Ultra. I don't know if you're aware of it, but that's actually the reason why it's part of the Sim update, World Update 8, because Spaniards flew from Spain to Argentina. And
现在在说下次势力更新和当地传奇，这个之前也提到过。
To get that to that museum in Luzon, and we just did this last week. We got latest and greatest.
下次势力更新是伊比利亚，就是西班牙和葡萄牙。当地传奇是多尼尔鲸鱼，是一个30几年的水上机。
It's going to be fascinating because it's sort of a full-on water plane. We only had one so far, the Icon. This one is a classic one. So I think you'll really love it. Oliver is super excited. So we'll bring him next time and he can show you.
Yes, that's going to be awesome. Thank you so much, Jorg. And on the note of planes we've sort of announced, Chad is asking, do you happen to have any updates on the ATR we talked about last year?
Hey, ATR.
Yeah, maybe.
I can speak to this. So the ATR is in development with Hans Hartmann, who you've met.
Hans Hartmann
Alexander is working on the flight model, and this is full co-dev with Asobo, and the Asobo team is working with them, and we're directly working with ATR. So this is, as we said, this is expert level.
去年说过，我在那个今年那个总结里面也有 ，ATR 正在做 ATR 400 ATR 400，然后这个 ATR 是跟 ATR 公司合作的。
It's making really good progress. We'll have Hans here again, but it's a little bit. Hopefully, the world is more back to normal.
我们目前能说的就是还正在做，进度还在进展，但没说具体的。
Awesome, thank you. All right, let's move on to. Here we go. Session 2 of our Q&A, and our first question to Seb.
可能今天不会说事儿啊，今天更多都是问答了。这个大家应该都遇到过，长途飞行，然后帧率就直接腰斩那个问题。
Yeah, so it's been on our basically our current. I mean, the usual approach when we have something like this is to try reproduce it, and once you have it on a machine in front of you somewhere, you can just go in and say, hey, it's what system is pulling all the resources. I mean, when you go from, I don't know, 40 frames per second to 2, usually you don't even have to do any performance measure or whatever. You just break the debugger and it's gonna break wherever it's slow, right? It's kind of easy. The issue is that we never found it. It went as far as I've been on my personal development machine running some intercontinental flights overnight, over lunch, or whenever I had meetings, and I never
the QA does the same. The QA does the
I
same.
even saw I did a
Asobo 的两个负责人说是自己这边没有复现过。
And I got 2 frame rates, 2 FPS more arriving in the US, so it was even the opposite. So currently we've been unsuccessful. We've done 24-hour flights, a bit of everything. So what we did is then we looked at telemetry, saying, okay, how many people actually have a frame rate degradation? So I think we saw it, right, Martial? But it's not a lot.
No, it's not a lot.
It's not a lot, and we didn't find any really big correlation saying do they have whatever on or off? So it's the only thing we saw is on some screenshots by users, and thank you for making a screenshot when you see an issue. And so on some discussion threads, we saw a screenshot and it said, hey, on the frame rate display, little colored like yellow turns red when it's low, whatever. It says manipulator being very heavy. So manipulator, it's basically anything in the sim that does systems, right? It's going to be planes, AI traffic, live traffic, stuff on the ground. It can be stuff in the world. It can be the weather system. It can be anything that is sort of the simulation and not rendering or stuff. It can be animations. It can be cockpits. And so all we know is in there. So what we're gonna do, we discussed with Martial and with the tech team, is how can we find what it could be. So what we're going to do now is we're gonna add telemetry and more information, basically, to split up. So this manipulator thing, which is basically what is. So we're gonna split it up into whatever live traffic, simulation, into all the subsystems. And the same in our telemetry, so that when
现在的信息是关于这个问题，他们还没有找到根本，因为找不出来。
we can actually say,
所以现在他们想做的一件事情是，在开发者工具里面把一些信息再公开化，然后通过让大家继续去复现问题，让开发者工具里应该能把这些问题给挖出来了。目前的计划是这个。
So our strategy now is to add telemetry to find bottlenecks in the code which are slowing down users whenever this happens. And once we have that out in an update, then I hope it's going to be fast to actually. We're going to have data. The users who have the issue, we're going to know exactly where it's slowing down.
Yeah.
And then we can look into a smaller system. We don't know exactly what, but at least we can say, hey, it's.
反正他们的意思就是我们这边复现不了，那只能各位帮忙了，这个意思。然后他们会更新一些相关工具，让各位更容易帮忙。总体思路现在是这个样子。
So that's our strategy right now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Just to add to this subject, I've seen on the chat that people are saying that there's already some thread there and there's some description. So just to let you know, we are following those threads. We are trying to reproduce the issues with the information you're giving us. So yeah, so we already have like a few correlation, but it doesn't seem to be. So maybe there are also different causes for this degradation. So we are looking all areas. And it's a subject here, I can tell you.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it'll be really cool to see that telemetry, and I think it'll help even more than that specific issue. I think it'll help send in bug reports for anything else the community is having. So I'm really excited to see that come to the sim soon. So thank you both, Seb and Marcel, for that answer. Another question here.
这也是个经典问题。
A lot, but
AI 交通的事。
Again about improvements to AI traffic coming up this year.
So I think we talked about this last time, right? AIG wrote us a very detailed, thoughtful document that has been broken down by the team. Honestly, Kai, if you're here, we have to get on the phone at some point here. But that is the plan. We're going to go dig into it and then go fix one thing at a time. But we don't even have to. We feel like the roadmap that or all the issues were pointed out. So now it's really up to us to go fix.
对，我在之前那视频里提到，官方没办法。官方去年说过，他们会找第三方来做，等于让第三方来操这个手。然后刚才 York 提到的是 AIG 已经主动联系了 ，AIG 会做这个事情。
This system has been inherited from FSX, and we added some improvements. We added the real-time air traffic on top of that, but on our side also it's also a matter of taking some time maybe to reboot the system, and it's something we would like to bring later on.
Awesome. Yep, I see Kai in chat. Very cool. Hello. Oh, next.
所以看结果呗，是不是
？Regarding VR, there are some shimmering issues since.
Shimmering 这个问题解决不掉的。
Do you know if there's a fix coming for that?
Shimmering 是那个，你看有些时候画面，无论是他问的是 VR 里，但实际2D 里也会有，就是你看远端的一些建筑物会在这闪，就是一帧是这个样子，另外一帧是另外一个样子，是互相闪，这个是这么个现象。这个现象。不好解决。
Been seen mostly on VR, and on PC it's not really the case. So
刚才 York 也提到，不是 AIG 单独来做，是他们会去帮忙，但名义上还是 AIG 来做，他们会用这个方式。Asobo 会有一些开发人员去帮忙。
So the results we're having shows some smooth and better graphics. We don't see any shimmering anymore, and even by setting the render scale to 50% is bringing performances and quality. So hopefully by using the SSS, for those who can afford that, it would be a better perception even in VR.
Okay. Thank you. And Marcel, do you have any thoughts on shortening the time it takes to load Microsoft Flight Simulator when you have a large number of add-ons?
Oh yeah, so
这边应该遇到过了，
previously about
插件一多，
orientation.
读盘时间就
So,
长得要
the
死
system。we are currently having is reading in all the packages all the information needed for any information that is displayed on the main menu. You know, even if it's planes or airports, everything is there. So when you've got plenty of those items, it takes time to pass. It takes time to read those information, and that's an issue we are well aware of. So the solution would be to create a new system that puts the information outside of the main title, but in the same way, we've got to make that compliant with the former packages. So it's not that simple. It's also something we've got a team dedicated to package delivery, and it's on their table. So they're thinking about creating a new system that should be compliant with the former one that sorts the information in order to be faster when we are loading them. But it's complicated.
But let's empathize, right? We all agree.
Oh, sure.
We all agree this has to go change. So,
Yeah.
but I think what Martial is saying is a pretty deep architectural change.
It is.
So it's going to take us a while, but there's not a person on the team that doesn't want this to go faster.
几个信息，第一个信息是这个问题官方知道，不可能不知道。
That's really what's going
第二信息是他们会分，这个真要解决的话，会得改底层，但是在改之前，他们会在游戏 UI 上会提供更多信息来告诉你什么东西
on.
让这个读盘时间这么长。
Alright,
然后他们会改底层去解决这个事情。他们说是会改，现在只是这个信息。
Do we have an update on the revamped ground physics handling and friction? In the past Q&A, we mentioned some work has been done. Can you go into more detail of what was done and what's coming up in the future?
地面飞机在地面时候的
I don't remember
操控。
exactly what I said, but definitely last year on some update, when was it?
跟这个没关系，这明显是他们游戏的这个读取过程。
It was.
Okay.
这个过程不改的话，永远会越来越大。就这刚才更多的说这个问题。
I think one was related to an assistance. When you turn on an assistance of which is called maybe ground rudder or something. What basically
装
it's
多
the
少
thing
东西
which, I mean, when you take off in a plane and there's a whatever crosswind and propeller effects, and I mean the plane goes all over the place, and you have a hard time using the rudder to just stay straight. And that is
那肯定大，毕竟是读盘啊。
and then when you rotate, it changes a little bit because you don't have the wheels which hold you a little bit in place anymore, and then you have to do some rudder work again to
现在问的这个问题是应该都，尤其是开小飞机的时候，大家都发现，就是地面操作的时候的那个舵操作有点扯，基本上大家都应该发现，说的这个。
And so you have to make the switch, and so the assistance takeoff rudder, whatever it's called, does that for you. And in previously it was just switched off whenever you rotated, and so it made this hard transition when you take off. So that's something which has been fixed, so that this assistance, instead of switching off instantly when you rotate, it sort of gradually fades out over the first 200 or 300 feet once you take off. So it doesn't have this brutal thing where
那说的是，因为你想你抬轮的时候，一抬轮就发现你所有的舵操作突然间就变了，就是那有一瞬间的变化。他们的说法是，其实他们在游戏内部，在地面的时候，游戏会有一些辅助自动辅助。你现在的版本是一抬轮，这个辅助立刻就关掉了，是这么来的。
Basically, it all comes from heavy simplifications that were in the sim 15 years ago, 10 years ago, which were basically always supposing that the ground was flat, and that's why you couldn't have sloped runways or undulated runways or whatever. And so when we added, and another thing is the ground friction model. Basically, when something is on the ground and it's like, let's say you're on the ground with a plane and the brakes are fully engaged, you don't move at all, right? The plane doesn't move, it sticks to the ground. There's what one could call infinite friction, or basically there's no movement at all, right? So there's no friction. And this is something that we've added. It didn't exist at all. And it wasn't really needed 10 years ago because there was no slopes. So when you put a plane on a flat terrain without wind, it's not going to roll anyway, right? Or anywhere, it's going to stay in place. But if you put that same system on a slope, well, it's just going to roll away and not stay there. And so the other thing is there's also wind. So historically in the sim, basically there was a system so that at low speeds,
那它更多的解释了一些游戏，也不是游戏底层的一些处理方式，更多是讲一些历史原因。
When you are below, I don't know, maybe it's really slow, right? Maybe 10 feet per second or
知道，你说的这些都对。
Which is why when you
你说的是对，但是刚才官方的意思也很明确，因为即便 NVMe 的 PCIe 速度再往上走，这都不是，这就属于治标不治本。他们要从根本上就是说把这个插件读取方式要改掉，因为你这个插件目录会越来越大的，控制不住的，是这个问题。
And I release all brakes, it's gonna start moving, right? There's no, I mean, the wind is gonna push it, and that currently does not happen. So there are changes like that we want to do. We want to redo the ground friction model to make it 100% realistic and exact, which means that we can then, we don't have to do anything. The wind is just gonna be there. We don't have to cancel it out anymore, and so that everything is gonna be realistically simulated from when you stop to when you take off and in continuously. There's no such
这里说到就是刚才地面操控这方面有一点是风的问题。现在你在地面的时候，很多风的计算是写死的那种。然后他提到，因为现在正在改气流嘛，所以可能以后这些写死的代码可能直接就删掉了。你在地面上所有东西都会模拟出来，就没这么多事儿了。
Whenever we have time to go into that, it's going to be compatible because the parameters are the same, right? The friction doesn't change. It doesn't really change anything in the way you define or create or make airplanes. It just changes the way I would say all the constraints and forces are solved at the end, so that the plane does what it's supposed to do. And all the constraints are basically the friction, the ground friction, the prop wash, the wind. And even the engine, which is slightly shaking the plane, all these things come together and are correctly solved. Currently, it's a little bit better because we worked more in a bug fix development system, where we said, oh, the plane is sliding on the slope, let's fix that. Oh, the plane is sliding when there's wind, let's fix that, and fix this and this and this and this. And in the end, we're in a situation where, okay, now we need to just
这个问题，它目前的基本意思就是，你还记得今年的主要目标不是改那些气动吗？现在螺旋桨已经改了，然后下一步改气流嘛，然后所有的这些模拟层面的改动都改完之后，这个地面操控的这个问题，他们就直接就委托到这些模拟层面上去了，就是他们就直接不管了，反正我最后会模拟出来，他们的目标是这个样子。至于结果会怎么样呢？到时候再看呗。
When you brake, it can resist movement. Or rolling or slides a bit, it does not resist rotation. A wheel can currently in the sims rotate like I don't know how to like this without any resistance. If you're in your car and you're parked and you turn the steering wheel, if you don't have the assisted steering wheel, it's I mean you feel it's not easy to turn the tire, right? Because it's not a point, it's a flat surface. It's a patch. It's a patch on the ground of rubber that you're moving. And so the new simulations can allow this. And so this helps a little bit in stability, right? When you're taking off, currently the plane is just a tripod of points. And as soon as the nose is up, you feel that, oh, it's already twisting. And the wheels are not, because they're not simulated as little patches of rubber, they don't resist rotation enough. And so these kind of changes are going to make I mean, it's a quick moment of whatever, 10 seconds or 20 seconds of takeoff, a lot more precise and realistic.
Cool.
And yeah, later this year.
Cool.
这意思就是起落架轮胎的阻力要模拟出来。
You asked for more detail.
Yeah.
I love that.
We all do.
Going back, I know, Marcel, you touched a little bit on DLSS. I'm seeing it.
Yes.
车导你说的了 ，DLSS 来了。
This in a previous Q&A. It's been a while though. They're asking for AMD users if we have looked into FSR for
P 居然说是 FSR 啊
supported sometime in the future.
I can't tell because this is really engine related. I know that they're working on all the systems that are currently existing. I know that we are using DLSS as a reference for these kind of technologies, but for FSR, I don't know what has been done, to be honest. I'll give you more information during the next Q&A, I promise. I've taken some notes about this also.
Okay.
下次 QA 会有更多信息，现在没有。
Now to our feedback snapshot. And before we delve into that, I wanted to talk about a little change the community team is working on in the forums. So our goal in the forums is to really be more efficient in reporting and fixing these community reported issues that we see, right? So with that said, there are changes coming in the
更重要的还是在 VR。
right now we have that bugs and issues section.
4K 反而
We're
是
actually going to be
其次。
splitting that into 2 different sections. So we're going to have a bug reporting section.
被
and
虚
a
晃一
community
枪的
help
感觉如何？
section. Basically, the community help center is going to be a place to get solutions for the community to kind of talk to each other, and then we'll keep that bug reporting section really just for bugs that only our team is able to fix. And in this section, we're going to have a new plugin basically that gives us new templates. So when someone does report a bug, there'll be a really handy button there that'll say contribute to this bug report that will allow you to answer some questions to help us try to reproduce the issue. So we're really excited to make that change here in the next week or so. And on top of that, I know there are some of those mega threads that have made it that are in
现在是主持人在讲他们的这个一些 QA 节目上的流程会做优化，讲的是这个。
To find single issues within them to kind of merge them into their own threads.
不，我指的是我的说法是应用层面上 ，VR 相比 4K 更需要 DLSS。我说的是这个。
Squashed this year, so just look out for those changes on the.
当然我知道你那边更多的是想做这个高清视频，那另外的一个应用场景不一样，我是这个意思。
Snapshot. I know we don't want to go through everything, so if you have questions on this, let us know and we'll see if we can answer some. I know I already saw a question.
现在 VR 根本就是30帧都上不去的。 没有机器能撑得住的。
Our number looks like
这个问题。
34 item here says add a vegetation render distance slider. This has recently been updated on the snapshot, so people are asking about this slider, if it's coming, what it is. I think Seb, you might be able to talk on this one.
现在它确实是为了观光，而且这个观光的体验极佳呀。 这也是事实啊。以及外设交互，你说的外设交互问题是啥问题？
And which does exactly that, right? I don't know what's the name in English in the text, but it's really exactly like the terrain distance slider and the object and the building distance slider. It does the exact same on the vegetation.
现在说的这个一直就是那个玩家想调那个植被的渲染距离，这个事之前提过。其实这个选项游戏内有，只不过措辞方式不对，他们一直想改，但现在还没改过来。说的是这个事儿。
There's like LOD numbers, level of detail of terrain, and the highest.
对，但我想知道你说的外设交互问题是什么问题？
Vegetation is a specific LOD. If that one is too close, then you cannot go further than that. And that's what the current slider does, right? It
你说这些
pushes vegetation.
这些没办法，你在 VR 里面
maximum distance.
你怎么交互啊？
If you currently set the vegetation slider to the max.
是，但我的意思是你说的这些不是模拟飞行，这不是这代游戏的问题，是 VR 的 VR 就这么做的，这是根本上的一个问题。
I don't really understand the question, so maybe we can.
我这个意思。
We can explain that or make the text better or whatever, but I think that's what the change was when we added the.
那我懂你说的是什么了，不就好说了。
Distance number and we made it so that the vegetation slider actually is impacted by that. So they sort of work together. I'm gonna look at it into it again.
Okay.
Maybe we can change the name of that slider. Maybe it just says vegetation. I don't know what it says, and make it clearer. And or if people can specify exactly what they want instead of, anything else. But currently that's what it does, right? It scales the distance of the detail of the.
那可能是你，但是很多人带个几个小时都应该没问题。
Up to that maximum.
正在说的，刚才我提的，就说的是有人想改植被渲染距离，但这个事儿之前说过，去年什么时候说过这个事儿？其实这个选项游戏内现在有，就是那个树木和草丛渲染那个，就那个选项，只不过措辞有问题，他们一直想改，但一直还没改过来，是这么个意思。那刚才扯这么多，是扯远了有点。
And then they sort of spread a little, we fix some stuff, and then it moves. And that's kind of what Jane was just talking about. We need to go, we're doing this with the bugs, because the bugs are, it's very difficult sometimes when you have like 60 things in a bug and one headline. What do we put in a feedback snapshot? Like
刚才还讲为什么说这个东西一直没改，然后现在那个 York 插进来说，我们之前一直在改 bug， 就是这种东西直接优先级靠后了，这么个意思。
Awesome. And going back to
因为这刚才那个问题并不是什么原则问题。
Have any updates regarding the Scenery Gateway system?
Scenery Gateway 这是好问题。
I kind of know. Oh, you want to go?
No. Please. Be my guest.
So the dev is hired, and we are now testing the system with one of our close partners. So we are one step away from testing it with the community. But we want to make sure it actually mostly works before we throw it out there for y'all. But it's making good progress, and that should tell you everything. We're committed to making this great.
这个 Scenery Gateway 指的是玩家可以自己通过游戏上传地景这么个系统。刚才说是已经。他们正在和一个亲密合作伙伴进行测试，已经到了这个阶段了。
Fantastic, thank you, York. Bring it on to
DX12 现在还没有说任何说法。
Okay, here's question number 31.
语音识别这个他们提过，但现在没有计划。
Up and down drafts. Oh, we did talk about that earlier.
中文语音估计不现实，因为现在所有语言的 ATC 都是英文出来的。
Yep.
Yeah.
He's working on that. I think it's up to date and accurate, so we're good there. Okay. All right, and for any other updates, as you can see, we kind of started including these text updates for the top wishes.
刚才你提的这个 DX12 的问题，你看他说的是2022，没有说具体时间，而且说实话，你说 SU10 对，确实有 ，SU10 会更新不少东西，那我知道。但他的意思是，并不是说 SU10 做完，这东西没法做完的，只能说一步一步优化。
Single line updates useful. So sometimes it's you say something, we hear it, we throw something back out, and then I don't hear back. So it would be great to hear like.
对，他说这个 targeting SU10 说的是进一步的优化工作。但你说这东西做完是做不完，没有说做完这个概念，是这个意思。
Few comments in chat says yes, these are great. I did see a comment in the forums when we first did this that basically said that it was really good to see this for those
DLSS 刚才他们说了，下次 QA 会说，今天没消息。
Are watching the videos, so yeah, seemingly useful. Okay, awesome. All right, going into our last Q&A.
感谢想过平淡生活的上班族的投喂。
Yes.
Because somebody, I know I picked a random comment, but I wanted to talk. Somebody said, hey, focus on the core sim, don't focus on stuff like xCloud, who cares? So I just want to give a little bit of perspective.
Sure.
We have 200 and, I don't know, I don't have exact number, 220, 230 people working on the sim total in various locations. This xCloud effort was one programmer and a half of a UI person for a few months. All this work and the magic of, and I honestly think it's amazing, was done by the
啊，卡住了。
Microsoft-based xCloud streaming team.
刚才他说的是那个，因为有人说你们赶紧再改模拟层面，为什么还会做游戏版？然后 York 的回复就是，这么大团队，每个人的分工不一样。当然，这个做软件开发领域的大家应该都明白。但是他刚才有几个点提到的，就是现在整个跟模拟飞行相关的，他们内部开发人员有200多人。有200多人，然后做云游戏版的是1个人做出来的。
Yeah, I think they're always curious, like how many devs are allocated to certain things in the sim, core sim stuff, and whatnot. So thank you, that's great. Great. The first question.
你说，韩寒，你说这个问题就是今年他们目标很明确了，今年他们去改气动了。等他们把气动都改出来之后，第三方飞机就会更好开发，到时候再看结果吧。现在只能这么说。
Yes.
哎，最大引擎数量现在是多少个
Yeah, I know this has been around. There's basically a few places in the sim where it says maximum engine number 4 and maximum propeller number 4, and so we need to increase this.
现在好的第三方都是用的自己的气动，跟游戏没关系。
The biggest question that we have is, do we wanna
不，那个 WYG 你没理解，他说那个1个人是1个程序员，把 Xbox 版本优化了，能上云游戏。他说的是这个。他York刚才说的更多的是软件开发领域的人都会懂，但说实话，他那个说法说出来让普通人可能会误解，是这个意思。
And we did a workaround. Ideally, it could be dynamic, but it's going to be a little bit more.
而且他说那个200多人应该都应该只是单纯的接触代码的人是200多人。
It's just a matter of changing it everywhere and not breaking anything. But otherwise, I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't do 10.
你要说把什么市场部门都算上的话，这是已经上1000人了。他不能这么算的。
That's a lot more than that. Yeah.
Ooh, there's a hint.
What is it?
We also have to change the passing systems for the CFGs, safety funds.
Cool. Great, thank you. All right. This is a great topic to go into a little bit. There are a few serious mouse panning regression bugs. One, a free look causing controls to freeze. There's one where a middle mouse button resets pilot view.
用鼠标操作的玩家应该都知道，现在鼠标操作有时候有几个扯淡的问题，说的是这个问题。尤其鼠标操作旋钮的时候的一些问题。
Maybe for not of all these bugs, but at least for some of them. So we know that we've got some. If we talk about inputs in general, we know that we have introduced some bugs with Sim Update 5 when we did some optimization and to do some new economy for 2-axis inputs. So by doing that, we introduce some context, and those context.
DX12 等它稳定再说吧。DX12 开发很难的。你看这次老头环的这个结果，老头环这次是一个很直接的一个问题。DX12 的开发其实非常难。等他们做吧，但毕竟这个是微软第一方，所以他们必须解决。不解决的话，微软的名字又护不住。
We were also getting some issues when using the free lock, and the cameras could be resetted, and that has been fixed.
正在说的是鼠标操作时候的一些扯淡的视角问题。然后这个 Marshall 说他们很多问题他们都记录了，然后一个一个解决，就是说这些事。
So this has been fixed too, so everybody will be able to manipulate the cursor, the menu, the cockpit.
微软提一下，光追是在 DX12 下面的，所以你想要光追，得等它 DX12 搞定。
Everything I think will come with Sim Update 9. And is there anything I'm missing here?
The right mouse button stuff. I mean, we know there's some bugs. So some I think the chat's right. Some have been fixed in Sim Update 8, but there's some other things. We're going to do we have to do a full look. Like honestly, I was just hearing some bugs even on xCloud, so we just need to look at it.
Yeah, sure. And for everything related to free lock, it will be linked to Sim Update 9. That's for sure. It's already
okay. Nice. Yeah. Cool. Thank you for the update there. All right. My cat. Are there any plans to improve ambient traffic or anything else that brings the world to life below?
环境交通
Well,
问
I
题。
mean, yes, to the point that seven myself is sick of me saying something about bringing the world to life. Ambient traffic. Well, yes, but it's a question of exactly when. But yeah, I mean, my view. There's
环境
the
交
air
通
traffic
说的是，
control
比如什
talking
么
about that, and then there's
路面上的
everything
车
else,
海上的渡轮，说的是这
digital
些。
twin.
官方说法是
That
会
isn't-
修，
isn't
但不知道啥时候。
endless task, but we will get closer and closer.
Yeah.
But we're here for a long time, right? So, but this is going to get better and better.
Awesome. This is a chat question from a little bit earlier. Do we have any improvements coming that might update the download experience? That meaning when you download from the MS Store, then you do the InSim update, and then Content Manager updates. It's often cumbersome, but wondering how you feel about this experience and if we might look into improving it in the future.
下载流程现在确实
Yeah, we
有点
talked
丑
about。this a little bit. Cumbersome is a
Yeah.
friendly word to say it. It is not good, and we know it needs to be. There's a re-architecture.
下载更新流程，
Yeah.
官方知道不行，只是说知道不行。
Screens here. Okay. What about the splash screen after hitting the icon to launch the game? I think we all know when you launch the game, you wait a little bit. Occasionally you think, did I actually press it? You'll press it again. Then you'll get the pop-up that says you're already running. Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah,
这个事儿。
we know that the sim is getting very long to get initialized, and the good news is
这事儿我估计今儿晚上看我直播的应该都发现了，那个
9.
如果你现在的插件装的很多的话，你启动游戏的过程会很漫长。然后这个时候你可能不知道游戏是真的启动还是没启动，所以你很有可能会再点一遍游戏让它起来。一般的解决方案是会做一个启动，直接看读一张图进来，让你知道游戏还活着，一般会这么做。所以问的是这个事儿。
I think the improvement will be significant in Subvert 9. It won't be world changing, but it is already. On the PC I've tested, it was like it was divided by 2 at least. So,
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So we'll see probably some improvements in update 9. Awesome. Thank you, Marcel. All right. Can you add the ability to open doors and canopies on default aircraft?
默认飞机是不开门的问题。
So we're putting it currently into our local legends and famous flyers. If you looked at the Beechcraft Stagger Wing that just came out, it has that. We are adding it. I can say that much. We're adding it to. There's going to be an update.
官方说最新卖的几架飞机是带这个功能的。
To make we collected all your feedback on the Junkers, and we fixed most of it, maybe all of it. And then we're very well aware that the Fokker wasn't exactly perfect. So the team has been working on that since launch. There will be updates. We actually tried to get it done yesterday.
另外那个他提到福克 F7， 他知道有问题，正在修。
We'll have opening doors and things like that. And then long term, we're talking about those types of things for everything. But it's a bunch of work. So let's get it done for the local legends and famous flyers first.
不，那些开门插件能做是建立在那些动画确实他们做出来了，只不过没有启用。
Cool. Thank you.
是这么来的。比如我用的那个 TBM 930的那个插件，作者明确说了，那个动画是那个3D 模型你自己都带了，也就是说制作组做出来了，只不过没用到。
I am because I don't want to people join, but I'm fine taking some out of the chat again. Like,
okay,
I feel like
can
some of
keep
these
going.
things. Some of these things never show up in the feedback snapshot, right? Just because of magnitude might not be that big, but doesn't mean it's not meaningful or important. Just a few.
I've seen in the chat people asking about the progress on helicopters, so maybe you can give a quick update on that.
直升机
So we have finished the propeller system, and it's been out
螺旋桨
since
啊，螺旋桨是为了直升机的一部分。
Spent some time helping plane makers using it. It's going to get better in Sim Update 9, meaning so the
下次系统更新还会改螺旋桨。
to make it to use it have been improved. The CFD is going to be out in Simulbit 9. Currently, we're targeting.
然后下次系统更新会改气流，这个之前说过。
Just the 172, because we wanted to go fly it and test it and make sure because it changes the stall a little bit. It changes. I think it feels a lot more lively, a lot more alive, a lot more realistic.
然后提到那个塞斯纳172会首先试装这个系统。
So that's coming live, but it's coming live in a way that users plane makers can turn it on, and it's really just a click or an option to add, and you can turn it on.
是，但4月底那是第一版，你要等第三方能用，估计还得2-3月再说。
But it may a little bit. And so the next big thing that we need to do.
我不是说我说能用是他们敢用在产品上，是这个级别的能用。
So that's always our goal, is to, as much as we can, share the improvements over the whole sim. Is that on helicopters, one very important phenomenon is that the blades are not, I would say, rigid, right? They're soft, they're shaped, they're moving, and they act a little bit like a spring. When a blade has and they don't have the same lift all around. When they spin around the helicopter, as soon as you start moving, or in a lot of situations, the lift is not the same, or even when they change the pitch, the lift is not the same all around the circle.
这个现在说的是螺旋桨的扇叶，其实相比水平翼飞机很麻烦的一点就是螺旋桨直升机现代直升机的原理里面，直升机的那个扇叶。每转这一圈，它扇叶的这个弓角是不一样的。正在说的是这个问题。扇叶不可能硬啊，它这么长，怎么可能是硬的，对吧？也是这个在物理层面也有这个问题上。现在他说他们观视组遇到一个难点，就是直升机的这个扇叶不是一个固定的一个东西，他得考虑到这个扇叶本身会变形。
Helicopter blades. What this is gonna bring is a little bit more. When you fly a plane, a plane is not like a rigid thing which is like steel and never moves. Like it's all like, especially if you go into a big airliner, go into what is that?
物理结果上一样，就是物理原理上一样。但是这个直升机的这个桨叶，它每转这一周，它的弓角会变。这个问题对于他们来说是很严重的，是这个意思。
When you get a wind bump or air hole or gust, or when you put an input, the whole plane, if you have the system where each surface can store a little bit of energy and delay it, it's going to soften the whole, like make it a little bit smoother and more realistic. That's something where people say, hey, your planes don't have enough mass, or something is missing, they are too reactive. I think it's that, because all the rest is mass is correct, everything's correct. But in reality, when one wing gets a boost of lift, it doesn't instantly move the whole plane. It takes whatever, it's small, right? It's a tenth of a second or so of bending the wing a tiny little bit before it restitutes that energy. And on the helicopter, that's like a key, like it completely changes the aerodynamics. But on a plane, it's gonna make the experience better. So that's the next
去年他们说过这个机翼面弯曲的事，当时我以为他们说是大飞机的问题，但现在这么一说的话，可能他们这个当时说的机翼面弯曲可能会最后做到所有的操作面、受力面都会可能有弯曲这个属性。
Awesome, thank you so much, Seb. I think I see you talking, but you are muted.
I know, because my neighbor decided to mow his lawn.
Oh, great.
It's raining. Makes no sense. But anyways, so I've been looking for manufacturing partners for Seb, really. So because we want to learn as much as possible about helicopters, and I think I finally succeeded in the first one. That's going to basically have Seb directly talk to the engineers, make sure that everything that is special to helicopters is debatable with them. So that's good, and we're targeting a second partner that we hope to close next week. But I mean, Seb has done great progress already. This is basically putting the bow on it. Right now we have deep insights into the actual telemetry of helicopters, how the thing really works. So that's really good news. I'm very happy about it.
Yes, it is. Thanks. Yeah, I got some great Twitch questions here. The first is, do you have any updates on shared cockpit?
共享驾驶舱
That's special.
No, we do not.
没有新消息。
Okay, no updates. maybe later this year. We'll be able to talk about it more. Another question we have is, how is the queue looking for new marketplace releases? The devs are eager, customers waiting. What are your thoughts?
So I think the numbers are we have.
这可能有的朋友不知道，就是它游戏官方市场，
The team is working as hard as they can to get this out.
因为有审核的压力，所以很多东西还在后面排队呢。不是说的这个问题。
So as I said earlier, I think you might have missed that. We do believe we have a solution. There's currently an epic debate if this solution can be for Sim Update 9 or 10. That's the debate.
Okay.
And Masiali and I have talked about it. Laurent's very well aware of it. So
yes, everybody's aware of that.
Yes, everybody's aware of it. And so I personally think this is of the top importance. So I would like to get this prioritized, but there's always a trade-off, right? That means something else doesn't get done as quick.
Very true. All right, thank you so much. Next question from chat. Would we be able to expect private servers like similar to FSX GameSpy, or at least larger group sizes? Moderation is necessary, especially for communities. Private servers would make
我刚才说的那个 SU9 和 SU10 说的是那个游戏市场，他们会有一些底层的改动，但没有说是啥。
Well, there is something there's a feature cluster we call social, and it's in that, and we will be meeting on this particular subject matter, the greater box. This is a piece of a greater box. I don't know, in the next few weeks. I think that's the plan. We're doing a mind map exercise on Friday. It's part of that. So we know that people we want flight clubs, we want all this. It's just how do we fit it in and when. I don't think this is going to happen this year, to be perfectly blunt.
关于私服这个事儿，用过这个说法，明显感觉是私服是不可能有的，但是他们会用其他方案来让你想用私服达成的目的更容易实现，比如说工会系统，这个意思。
And we should make this a lot more friction-free for everybody to do this.
Yeah,
and combine together. It's fully understood.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question here. Seb, do you know what the next aircraft are to get the propeller upgrades introduced in Sim Update 8?
Sorry, what aircrafts have been updated?
No, currently we have the
下个螺旋桨飞机会是啥呢
Do you know what the next ones might be that we can
So for Sim Update 9, we are introducing the Cessna 172 with the CFD airflow simulation. And for that to really, I mean, it would have worked without, but to fully take advantage of it,
下一架螺旋桨优化飞机是 Cessna 172
172 is already, I mean,
同时172会直接时装那个新的气动。
It's gonna be that, and I've been helping plane makers to try to use this, so which
也就是4月底的塞斯纳172应该是所有人都会去测试的东西了。
Actually, make it easier to port to the new system. With Sim Update 9, that was my priority, and so I would say we can. I mean, based on maybe feedback, what people request. 然后扯了一堆事情是刚才跟咱聊天有关系的是那个第三方时装新的气动，然后他正在说的是他们内部会做很多事情，让第三方团队更容易的去接新的气动，说的是这个。 That plane because for the CFD we wanted to have the plane that we could the easiest test. With our basically measurement tools, and that was the plane that we could easily access. So that's why we chose that one to port it over. But I mean, I can. The biggest bottleneck for us is testing. When we update a plane, we need to make sure it gets thoroughly tested, and we can't just update all propeller planes in one in one update.
Yeah. Okay. Another question I saw was about our current local legends releases. Will we see updates to those aircraft in the future?
Well, that's what I just said. Maybe I wasn't clear. So there is Oliver and Orbex both have been working hard on getting the.
是啊，你说的对，所以他的一个意思更多的就是通过这种方式来让所有人来参与测试，更多的是他这个意思。
They're doing great. So yes, we're not a one and done shop. So we're going to continue to
因为每次更新1、2架，那所有
Awesome. Thank you.
就是所有人的目光都会集中在那2架上，飞的人会更多，他们会收集到更多数据。
Adding freeware to the marketplace, will that be a thing in the future?
市场里的这个免费区域。
Yes, the simple answer is yes. It's been on our feedback snapshots forever.
答案会有。
So it's really just we did the marketplace 2.0. It was a brief discussion for that.
这个免费专区应该是，如果离开的话，可能 A32NX 之类的应该都会回来。
It's not difficult. It's more of a what are the filters we use, because we can't just flood the marketplace team. It still has to go through ingestion, right? So that's the thing. And then right now when people are saying, hey, when do we get the Hawk? When do you get this? When do you get the Pipers? Well, it's the same team, right? And that team has grown crazy since we started. When we started, we had 1 person. That was probably innocent. I think now it's 8. So we'll just see exactly how much. But I've been looking at a freeware plane just last night for a variety of reasons, and I'm like, man, we should really have this in our marketplace. So maybe we can do this sooner.
Okay.
Finally.
Thank you. Are there any other questions you see that you'd like to answer? We have a couple more minutes. I'm reading chat now.
I think you should, because otherwise we'll just pick the ones that we like. With a big equalizer, yeah.
That sounds good. I did see a question earlier about a certain bug about icing not being able to be turned off. It says setting it to off still freezes the plane over. I don't know if any of you have information on that.
I've seen that. It has surprised me because there are 2 options there.
结冰的这个问题，结冰关不掉。
It's just turning off the effect on the planes. So if you turn off the icing effect, so it will turn the icing effect on the plane. So the weight and everything that can bring some damages on the planes. But if you also want to remove the visual effects, the icing visual effect, there's another option. So if you don't want any kind of icing, you have
意思就是这你说的这个问题不是问题，我来跟你解释一下。这没什么说。
Maybe it's ready to do that.
Yeah, we're gonna test. I don't know. It's maybe something got broken, but I think there's this. You can have
然后
physical.
Sebastian 过来说，我不能把话说死，有可能你说的对，可能有 bug。
Okay. Question about the FA-18. Are there going to be future updates to that? For example, external fuel tanks.
F-18
Future updates coming with the Maverick Top Gun release.
Oh, cool. Okay.
装置凌云扩展包里会更新 F-18，更新啥不知道啊。
We never get a personal question for all you 3. What is your favorite type of weather to fly in your free time?
Interesting.
涵涵，你要明白啊，中间那位 Sebastian Walk， 他是阿索布的 CEO， 他是不会把话说死的，你这么想。
I love getting some not dramatics, but it's like some mood on the because I'm flying for most of it. I'm flying VFR and on different kind of area because I love discovering areas. So I'm always sitting up with scattered clouds and beginning of end of the day to have like the FF lighting for that. So it's when I'm not working, because when I'm working on the sim, obviously I need to test in plenty of situations. But for just my personal usage in VR, that's what I'm using.
Nice.
啊，对对，有一个细节，中间这位刚才不说是阿斯布 CEO 嘛，他是真的飞行员，他真的有飞行执照的。
Right, because we have a Spain update coming out, and I do that in bright daylight, nice.
然后左边的那位是微软的人，他是就是个云玩家，这这么说。
I'm sort of in. I don't want to do landing challenge or something, so I'm in adventure mode. I get myself a storm, and I'm trying to fly over some mountains, and I don't do well.
所以这个问题 ，Sebastian 是不会接嘴的，一接嘴的话就是搂不住了，知道吗？他就说今儿飞哪儿去了？这是。
I think I have one more question here. I'm going to go back to our feedback snapshot, and we'll close this out. Users asking about our number 10 slot here. enhanced API to access all
对
aircraft.
DLX12这个我得记一下。
We are wondering if you could provide any information on this.
We need to have a meeting on this. So this came in 2 weeks ago or so, and at least in the top 10. And we typically have a meeting on the feedback snapshot where we actually talk it through, and we didn't have it the last 2 weeks. Maybe it's not clear to y'all, but we just did a platform launch, right? So this was kind of stressful. But we need to actually sit down and really talk this through. I know the team looked at it, but we haven't had. I was not part of the discussion. I don't know if you guys were.
没记错的话，那个最开始那个 demo 是 York 他做的那个卫星图 demo。
Next week thing. We'll try to get more.
至于是先有的卫星图 demo 还是先有的这个想法，那我就忘了。
All right.
因为往前翻的话，确实有得往前翻到一个卫星图 demo 上，那是 York 他们当时带出来的。
Either in the forums or in our next Q&A at the beginning. And is there anything any of you three would like to say before we close out this session today?
Thanks for everything. Sorry for the heavy beginning. I'm not trying to bore you, but maybe next time.
今天没啥猛料啊，更多的是
I hope so.
社区解答各种问题。当然，实质性的内容还是有，一会儿总结一下。
But thank you.
Thanks. All right, everyone in chat, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you taking the time to ask questions and be with us today. This video will be up on YouTube either later today or tomorrow morning,
我觉得得更正一下
as well as a text version.
York 就在西雅图总部，
So we hope you
他
have
不是
a
说
great
去
rest of your，
他
week.
就在。
Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
对，所以说咱俩说的是一个事儿了，就是，只不过确切的说，他就在西雅图总部。